This is the lathe. We use the lathe to cut parts that have rotational symmetry about an axis. We have our part that we'll be cutting down some of the radii and some off the end today. We'll put our part inside the chuck using the chuck key. The chuck key fits in this hole, and we loosen it to open the chuck. Once it's wide enough, we can place our part inside. And tighten it back down. We always want to make sure that the chuck key is placed out of the way before we turn the machine on. This is our cutting tool. There's two cutting tools set up right now, one for each orientation that the block can be set in. The first orientation we'll cut at the end of our part, like so. We loosen this up, turn it to the second, and we can cut at the side of the part. There's two dials for moving the cutting tool. The first is the cross feed. It moves the cutting tool across the part and back. There's tick marks on this dial that measure 1/1000th of an inch per tick mark, and one revolution of the dial is 0.2 inches. The second dial is the long feed. This moves the cutting tool along the part and back. Each tick mark on this dial is 1/100th of an inch, and one revolution of the dial is 0.8 inches. We can zero either dial by holding the knob and turning the gear with the teeth on it until our dial is set at 0. Before we start the part turning, we need to make sure that it's spinning at the correct speed. We can do that by changing our gears on the machine. Right now, it's set to neutral. We can set it to 625 for HDPE, high density polyethylene, the material that we're using currently. To do that, we set the big lever over to high and bring this dial to A. Finally, we set the motor to high using this switch. Now we know we're in high gear using this table. We're in row A, and then this last lever tells us that we're at 625. So now we can pull out the red emergency stop button. We'll turn the machine on. When the light's on, the machine is on. To start the part turning, we use this big lever. If we pull out and down, it turns the part forward. If you come back to center, it'll stop. If you come out and up, it'll turn it in reverse. So forward is out and down. Back to center to stop. And out and up for reverse. So to zero our dials, we'll use a sheet of paper to find the surface of our part. To do this, we'll bring the cutting tool somewhere over the surface and slide a piece of paper in between the cutting tool and the part. We'll move the paper back and forth, and at the same time move the tool in towards the part until the paper just catches. So now the paper is caught. Now we can zero the crossfeed dial. We'll back off this dial, come to the end of our part, come into the part, and using the long feed, we'll zero on the end, using the same method. Now if we set both dials to 0, the tip of our cutting tool will be on the corner of our part. Now, using the tick marks on these dials, we can cut in at any measurement that we need to. So if we want to cut into the part a diameter of 0.1 inches and along the part a distance of 0.25 inches, we can measure that using the cross feed and the long feed. We'll start the part turning. We'll come in our diameter of 0.1 inches. And then we'll come along the length of the part, 0.25 inches. And then while the part's turning, we'll back our tool off and turn the machine off. Now we can use a brush to clear our chips off. And we've made our cut. So now we can drill a hole up the center of our part if we need to. To do so, we'll remove our cutting tool, place it off to the side, back all of our equipment out of the way, and to drill a hole in the center, we'll use the tailstock. We've got another chuck that will fit inside the tailstock. There's two tapered ends that fit in a slot, and the taper of this shaft also holds this in. So we'll dial this out, turn that until it seats. We have a 1/4 inch drill bit that we'll put inside the chuck. Now we can slide the entire tailstock towards our part. So this whole part slides along the track. You can slide it backwards and forwards. If we want that to stop, we push this big lever forward, and that motion is locked. We can also dial the chuck forward, and if we want that motion to stop, we can push the small lever forward, and that will stop. We'll get our drill bit close, lock it in place. We'll turn the machine on and dial the drill bit into the center of our part. Once the drill bit is out of the part, we can turn the machine off and clear away our chips. Once we're done, we need to turn the machine off. To do that, we hit the big red E-stop button, and we can pull out this tray and clean up any chips we may have accumulated. We'll slide our tailstock back. And use the chuck key to remove our part. And now we have our cut.